The Kgalame Motlanthe Foundation's Inclusive Growth Forum in Drakensberg has been host to some of South Africa's top thinkers over the past 3 days, sharing their thoughts on both the challenges the country faces as well as what may have deemed or is deemed obvious solutions to the problems. Newzroom Afrika's Hugo Ribatika is standing by to speak to Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh of the Wits University after his thought paper on the new social contract. Good morning, Mr. Ribatika.
Good morning. Good to see you. So it's been interesting conversations this morning. In fact, Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh has just spoken, and he talks about not so much a renewal, but starting anew. In fact, he says it's not about reinventing the wheel, but a new broom altogether sweeps clean, and that's what we need. So he joins me now to unpack the thoughts, well, certainly his thought paper around new. Sizwe, thanks so much for speaking to us. Now, a few minutes ago you spoke, and you've said it's not about harnessing the old, it's about fresh faces, fresh forces. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, I think we've seen just this weekend a sense in which even all the former presidents of South Africa have said something is not right, something is fundamentally broken. And that maps onto how it feels to be a South African right now. And one thing we can do is try to breathe new life into the existing institutions that we already have. Save the ANC, change economic policy 1 degree to the left or 1 degree to the right. Or we can say that we actually need a fundamentally new vision for South Africa. We need to relook at the entire way in which South Africa is constituted, from the Constitution down, and actually breathe into life an entirely new country which builds on the gains of the old country but moves to a fundamentally different trajectory. Unless we actually summon the imagination to do that, then I think we can all see the nosedive in which we are all heading.
Well, obviously we are in a nosedive, have been for several years, but new also suggests that call it a new way of thinking for the current leadership, right? In order to accept that they need to hand over the baton to the future, which is younger people, younger leaders. How does that actually happen?
I think that's crucial, and one of the things we heard here is that either those who run South Africa, its economy and its politics, are going to enter into conversations with the new generation, and we're going to find a way to bring younger voices into leadership, or young people are going to do it ourselves, and that may be a messier process. And so I think it's important for those leading South Africa right now in this state of crisis to appreciate that unless they move with swiftness, then they're going to be overtaken by events. And young people are already, not just young people because they're young, but people who have a fresh perspective, who have a new energy, are really thinking deeply, not just about one change here or one change there, but how we actually create a second republic, a second country out of the first, because the obvious and devastating crises created by the status quo are simply unsustainable.
Well, you talk about two options to renewal. One of those is through conversation, and one of those options is a more aggressive approach. Well, the one option certainly is at the ballot. Now, local government elections, which occurred recently, is a clear indication that young people are not stepping up to the party. They're not going to the ballot to use that legitimate means of creating that new. So how do you convince young people that there is a legitimate way and to accept and, I suppose, follow due process?
I think that's probably right, but I would say that it's not so much a question of apathy rather than one of alienation. I think that the political options that have been put in front of young South Africans since 1994 have really failed to ignite their imagination. And that's the task of political parties and political alternatives. It's to inspire people, to make them think that there is a plan that can make their lives better. And young people don't feel, to a large extent, that there is such a plan. And so it's incumbent on people like me, people like the people who have been speaking at this conference, who at least have some form of influence and some form of voice, to start charting and creating that future and start retelling the story of South Africa, rather than simply criticizing, to start saying, what would a future that can give us a little bit more hope look like? And I think we're all hungry for that. It's going to take a while. It might not happen tomorrow or even by 2024. But unless we start that fundamental work now of thinking, what does a new country need to look like, and what are the elements of that new country, then we're going to be perpetually enslaved to these consistent crises.
Sizwe, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Hugo.
Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, one of the young voices and thought leaders that are speaking at the conference here, Dudu. And he says it is about young people, it is about regeneration, it is about the new voice that needs to take this country forward.
Thank you very much, Hugo Ribatika, for that update.